Now, and again, speakers today are some of our own. We got Tom Magnan and Steve Block and Val Allen and spouses to tell us about some European travels they've done this year.
I will. This is my wife, Val.
Hello.
Hi, Val.
Hi, Val. Hi. I'm Elise. I'm Steve's wife.
Hi, Elise.
Hi, Elise. Introduce yourself.
I'm Marie.
Thank you for having us.
You guys wait.
Yep, this afternoon. We thought the trip was great, but we weren't sure if anybody really wanted to hear about it, so we were excited that we were asked to come and present some slides. We had a million slides, as you can imagine. So paring it down so that we could kind of give the flavor of a friendship and a flavor of all the sites we saw was kind of a difficult task, but we hope you enjoy it. Probably the biggest question we got was, why did you guys go, and how did you decide to just do it by yourself without a travel agency? We're all about the same age, so we're in our retirement years, most of us. And so we had said a couple years ago, like, when we retire, let's take this big trip. And then it just kind of came to fruition as we saw each other here and there. Are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? One night we sat down and said, let's do it. So we really didn't even think about a travel agency. We just started talking about, let's go here, 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 and here. We got maps out. We had many a meeting. Some with cocktails, some without. Some nights long, some weren't. But that's how we got started. And so a friendship grew from there. And people also asked, how did 6 of you get along? I don't know, we did. We had talked enough to know that what we wanted from each country, and we had it pre-planned, and we're all kind of the same, large families, and it just worked out. It was a great trip.
We share marriage.
Yeah. That's the other piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a map of our travels, and you can see from here the red arrows show we explored London, Westport, Tralee, the Dingle Peninsula, Dublin, Ireland. We were in Spain, we were in Barcelona, in the southern part in Granada and Sevilla. Steve and Elise and their nephew Kevin were in Rome. And then we all met up and we were in the beaches of Normandy in Bay of France, and we spent a night in Paris, and then we ended up our trip back in London again, spending a few days. So here we've landed at Heathrow, and we figured out how to get our hotel by the bus. Oh no.
If you could see the faces.
This is the side. There's more than one Ibis Styles London Heathrow Airport Hotel. And we drove past it on the bus right there, so guess what? We have to backtrack, and we decided we're going to walk. So as we passed the other hotel, the bus driver did ask us, which hotel, and we confidently directed him to the wrong one. So, we had a mantra that we developed at this point called 2 times around. Finally, with our luggage, we got settled in our hotel, and then we were back to the airport, and we caught the tube into downtown London, and we were hungry, and we needed a refreshment, so we have our first meal in a London pub.
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
Yeah.
We used many modes of transportation to get around. As far as planes, in the whole entire trip, we booked 8 flights. 2 of them were international and 6 were intracontinental. We rented 2 9-passenger vans. They both came with manual 6-speed transmissions. They were really fun on the narrow roads. Mark, Tom and Marie's, Tom's brother, here he is driving, and if you see, of course the steering wheel's on the right-hand side, but he's also shifting with his left hand. That was really fun. We drove trains. Here's one of the trains we went to from Granada to Sevilla, and we also had an opportunity to ride the Channel, the Eurostar, which is the high-speed train that goes under the English Channel from Paris to London. And the journey took about 2.5 hours. It's about 214 miles. but the channel itself that goes under the water is only about 31 miles long. So when the train travels on above ground, it goes about 186 miles an hour. When it goes through the channel, it has to slow to 100 miles an hour.
Oh, jeez.
Here's the Gare du Nord station in Paris where we boarded the channel. We didn't know it at the time, but we found out as I was looking at that this is the busiest railway station in Europe. It's over 700,000 passengers daily. We also had a bomb threat and an evacuation while we were here.
And we were part of it. Yeah.
Here we are on the channel, on the train, and Maria's making us sandwiches for lunch. When we arrived in London, we arrived at a beautiful, beautiful train station. This is the St. Pancras station. And we get out, and if you can see right here in the middle, this is about a 20 to 25 foot tall bronze statue of a couple embracing. And overhead was the words, "I want my time with you," and a massive, huge clock. You can see we got here about 10 minutes to 5. This is our arrival into London. We used a lot of taxis. Here's London taxis. They were very unique. But we used taxis all over Europe.
Ubers were frowned upon.
Yeah, they didn't really like the Ubers. Let's see here. We used buses. This particular scene is of a double-decker bus, and this is Oxford Street in London. They were decorated for Christmas. But what I want to point out is two things. See these zigzag lines? We don't know what they meant. And we ran across some other places in Europe too, and it's like, I don't know. They have different markings on their things. And the other thing is that because they're they drive on the wrong side of the road. When you step off and you go to cross the street, as you see, they mark right on the pavement. Look right, not left. Otherwise you get hit. So that was always a challenge. We used a lot of hop-on, hop-off buses. We went through Dublin in one, and we used one in London. They were great, gave you a great highlight to a city. We took a ferry across the River Shannon in Ireland. And of course we used the subway systems in London and in Barcelona. Once in a while we didn't know where we were going, but most of the time we did. Lots of steps going down, and once in a while we'd get stuck down in the subways and we couldn't figure out how to get out, but we managed it. Here's another entrance to a subway system. Just notice the London streets, some of them are real narrow. Whoop. Wrong way. Some of them are real narrow, but decorative. And we did miles and miles and miles of walking. Walking each day. We walked all over Europe. It was great. We all, I think, came back in better shape than when we went.
This is our first B&B in it was in Westport. Our first stop after being in London for the first night. And this is on the west side of Ireland. It was a very nice setting. As you look out the back window it gives you a sense of the Irish terrain and farmlands. And this is not an unusual picture. As you're driving through Ireland, you see those stone fences and just beautiful scenery everywhere you go.
Is it winter?
It was fall. October was when we were there. So it was very similar to our fall here. They don't have as colorful of trees, but they were changing colors too. They're more yellow.
Well, and I think Ireland is a great place to start if you haven't been to Europe, because they speak the language and they like company. They like to have.
And as Elise said, we took a lot of pictures here. We were warming up the guys of the crew and focusing on our lovely wives next to the building. So we got a good start. And as we drove around, cemeteries was something you see a lot of, along with lots of other really cool sites to see. This was in Westport, Murrick Priory. Lots of like abandoned old abbeys and churches. Most of them don't have a roof anymore. It's just a stone a stone wall standing. This is Croagh Patrick, which is probably the most famous mountain, they call it a mountain, in Ireland. Supposedly, St. Patrick set a mass on the top of this mountain when he was in Ireland. It's pretty cool. We did not hike to the top
They
of
have
it.
pilgrimages.
But they do have a pilgrimage. A lot of people go there on a regular basis, probably up to 1 million a year, I think is what they learned.
Yeah.
So, pretty popular tourist destination.
This is in County Mayo where Westport is, where our first B&D is. That probably suffered the most during the Irish potato famine. That was between 1845, 1850. I never liked history, so I learned a lot of stuff doing this. The famine is the biggest tragedy to hit Ireland due to starvation and emigration. Nearly a quarter of Ireland's population was wiped out. So this famine memorial here, this is called a coffin ship. It reminds us of all the horrors that the people faced when they emigrated. Overcrowding, lack of food and water, and unsanitary conditions on the ships.
You know, you can see on the sides, those are bodies stretched out to make that circle around the top. Those are skeletal bodies.
So many of them died on passage. They didn't have enough food on the ship even, so thinking they were escaping the famine, they wound up dying on the ship.
The next famine memorial that we drove to was the Duloc Valley Famine Memorial. In 1849, many starving people were forced to walk 20 miles or more in bad weather from one end of this valley in Lewisboro to Delphi Lodge, which is this lake, and this would be the edge of the Delphi Lodge. It was a lodge. And they were to attend an inspection and get famine relief. And it was estimated that more than 400,000 people died on the journey. Rick, I didn't pass this out. I have a couple copies of the story of this. It's really touching. If you want to take some time, if you want, you can read this story. He's got 3 copies of it, but it's not necessary. But it was quite impressive. The people, many people have visited this memorial or re-walked this same path each year since like 1988 in memory of the people that died here and to highlight present-day starvation of the world's poor. So we will never, ever forget this valley because the day that we were there, it was so windy. If you see,
And actually, that spot that you're just looking at is the Nelson Mandela Memorial where he walked through and talked about starvation in the world.
Right. If you see, Marie's hair is blowing straight out, right here. And she actually went airborne. It picked her up, the wind did. And Rick lost his hat and he ran down the road to chase it and he got going and he couldn't stop. He thought he was going to have to hit the ground to stop. And I have a video of it and he's got his arms up like this and his clothes are plastered to him. It's just amazing.
And this picture's Mark, and I did not tell you about Mark. So that's Tom's brother, who was our tour guide, and he also helped us kind of decide where to go. So he's in a lot of these pictures in Ireland.
Yeah, he goes to Ireland every year, so he's very familiar with the different locations and stuff, so that was a big help.
Now we're at Cong. Cong is on the right-hand side, you see the Cong Village, or the Abbey, that was built in the 7th century. And the lower left-hand corner, we stopped at the place where the Quiet Man, maybe if you're familiar, if you watch TMC, Turner Classic Movies, or TCM, you might see it. John Wayne was in it, and that was the first American film that was actually filmed in Europe and won an Academy Award, and that was the site. And we, all of us guys bought a flat top hat. Tom, did you ever? Anyway, we all bought our Irish cap. And then on the right is a tourist, lower right was a recreation area at the Cong Wood Forest Recreation.
And it was raining.
Warren O'Hara's birthplace.
Okay, then our second bed and breakfast was in Tralee, a beautiful area, as you can see from the landscape. And we really enjoyed that, and they had a little farm there. They had a horse right up my, Lisa loves horses, so it was right outside the window. And then they had a dairy farm back there. And Tom, which has a hobby farm, and he has cattle and cows and stuff like that. He can probably say something, but they went and watched the milking process.
Yeah, they have a small dairy operation. Most of Ireland is populated with beef cattle and sheep. This part of this country has an area where they have a dairy, and so there's quite a few dairy farms in this particular area around Tralee. So it was just kind of fun to see a milking operation. It's like, it reminds me of when I grew up and did some help with my uncles. They had milked about 30 cows. It wasn't a big operation, but family operated. It was pretty cool.
And Irish butter is really famous. You can buy it in the States.
In Tralee, that's in the southwest. It's not way down in the corner, but it's in the southwest part of Ireland. And if you notice, this is right in itself in Dingle, in the town of Dingle. See that road's kind of interesting with the zigzaggedy lines there. We haven't totally figured that one out yet, but we saw that all over. The next one is our Wild Atlantic Way. It's the Dingle Peninsula. So if you ever look on a map of Ireland, and the Great Blasket, not Blanket, Blasket Islands that are off the coast there in the distance. And then here's a picture of, wow, Jesus, what a handsome devil. in Schley Head. And that's just along the coast. It's just a really beautiful area there.
The road over Connor Pass is the highest mountain crossing on the Wild Atlantic Way. That's one of Val's pictures. It's a good picture, but you have to be there. And here's a little tiny road. You actually are driving on that, and it does go both ways. You do meet cars, so you have to look ahead and spot us to pull over for you guys to pass.
And we were in a
It gets to be a
van.
little difficult.
9-passenger van.
Yeah. And this is in Dublin, downtown Dublin. This is on the right-hand side is the Brazen Head Bar, supposedly the oldest pub, and they all say that. But we did stop there, and we had lunch and nice dinner. We did meet some people that were from Florida that were on a choir tour, and so we attended. The next day we attended their choir concert at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and that was really quite an interesting place. It was there was a lot to see there and do. I think we did some rubbings there that was very interesting. And
So this would be, we were just on the bus on this route, and these were pictures of the revolutionists in the 1916 era when the Irish were revolting against English rule. And so they still honor those people. So they have a lot of Irish political pride. So that was interesting. And then we went to the Jameson distillery. We didn't drink anything, we just looked. Well, here's one guilty person right there. That's Rick. He did belly up to the bar. But what they do there is that they show you the most famous American whiskey and another kind of whiskey, and then their Jameson. There was like 5 different samples, and really theirs was, not that I tasted it, but it was different. And so then we began giving that to Elise as a home remedy because she had a bad cold. She recovered.
remarkable.
Is this mine? Oh, okay. So then Ireland is very colorful. So you can see Rick has found a mailbox that's green there. That's quite interesting. And that's a real mailbox. And then to the left, you can see a storefront that's a different color and so on below as well. But then when you go up onto the right-hand top, that green door, we asked, and I think one of our tour guides said, well, when the Irish the men would go out and drink in the pubs at night, they had to have different colored doors because for a while the men would just come in and get in bed and say, oh, there's one. So then they had to different colored doors so that the men would know. I went to a red door, not a green door.
So the story goes.
So this is some of our best shots. So Kleenex was a big thing, because I got really
She was
sick.
very sick.
Everywhere we went,
Such
we
a
had to stop for Kleenex, and we found man-sized Kleenex. And they were great. If you can't get them here, you can get big Kleenex here, but not man-sized. So they took really good care of me, and yeah, Jameson did cure me, so.
You can see the senior citizen parking.
Yeah.
This is, so on the left, that nasty 9, that would actually be the inside door of a women's bathroom that I took a picture of because it was so cute. They had all these nasty 9 things that you can't flush down the toilet. One is cotton buds, one is called, what Band-Aids called again?
Plasters.
Plasters, that's what Band-Aids, and nappies, of course, are diapers, and you can't throw those things down the toilet. So we thought that was cute, little cultural difference.
Yeah, we're having some tea. It was a cold, rainy day, so it actually tasted quite good.
43, 44.
Thank you. And then some of our favorite foods, we did a lot of seafood chowders, and they were exceptionally good. And brown bread, we always ordered the brown bread, which I've actually got to making, and I've come up with a pretty good recipe. Most people seem to like it, especially when I go get the Irish butter to go with it.
Ooh, yeah.
And Steve developed a real affinity for brown bread.
Okay, and we did manage to visit a few pubs there, and the Guinness does taste better there, it does. And we did get some live music right in the lower right there, and I think that guy right there is in his 80s, and the person who is, I don't know who his father is, uncle, somebody was in his 90s, just recently passed, but they were great music, a lot of good,
Authentic.
very
Traditional.
fun, very fun.
Is mine?
Yep.
Okay, well, here is what we did part of the time, waiting for the bus to pick us up and move us around through the city. It was a good time to visit and catch up on things. We all had a different way of figuring out how to get there. Steve had his
Google Maps.
Google Maps in front of him. And in here, we labeled it a full Irish breakfast. Now, in Ireland, they do have a real traditional breakfast. It's eggs and potatoes. They have sausage and bacon. They call the sausage bangers and mashers. And Steve wound up expanding on this very traditional breakfast. They also sent out a little dish with a red substance in it, which appears to be some type of red jam. So when Steve was done, he spread it over his toast and started eating it and says, well, this jam tastes kind of funny. Well, it turns out it was ketchup. So from that point on, anytime we saw ketchup, Steve was in the forefront. We even found some ketchup flavored chips somewhere.
And anytime we all actually ran across containers that looked like it might contain ketchup.
Okay, as we were nearing the end of our trip, we celebrated by honoring Mark, who did a yeoman's job of driving us all around the country. And got an outfit there, he kind of looks like Willie Nelson there. He didn't leave it on very long, but anyway, we got a quick picture of him as we were thanking him for our driving.
So this is leaving Ireland.
Leaving Ireland, and our tradition that came from actually Marie's mom.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime we had a drink and we would toast each other, it was always, here's looking up your assets. That came from.
My mother grew up Irish, and so that was something I heard growing up.
It doesn't sound as funny here, but we.
We had fun.
It's because we're not drinking as we said.
Okay, and now after leaving Dublin, we wound up going to Barcelona, where we also had our son Matt lives there, and he helped give us a tour. So this, I think, is Eric, one of Matt's friends, who he set up. He does this professionally. He gives tours of the old part of Barcelona. He was quite informative for someone who grew up, I think, in Ireland.
He's Irish, yeah.
He's Irish too. A lot of international representation in Barcelona.
And for you students, I mean, they So Eric's from Ireland, but he's fluent in Spanish, as most of those friends are fluent in a couple languages.
And then this was towards the end of our time in Barcelona. The ladies were out shopping until us guys took a walk down towards the beach. And they've got a great park there, and just it was just a beautiful day too. We just enjoyed it tremendously. The ladies caught up to us a little bit later then, but this was not a true mastodon, but a stone one. It was kind of fun to take pictures at, so.
There's Tom Marie's son, Matt, was the one in the middle in that picture. So he lives there, has a great job, and he was our tour guide.
Yeah.
And he's evolved a lot in the 3 years. We were there 3 years ago, and he's evolved in knowing even more now and having better restaurants to take us to.
This is the port of Barcelona. This is where the destination was when the guys took their walk, and we came and met him after we shopped. It was a beautiful, beautiful day, so we ended up taking a boat ride to tour the waterfront. And Marie found some very colorful ladies, and they agreed that we could take their picture because we thought it was really cool.
And €6 to take the boat, so it's very affordable if you do these things and look for deals.
We also had lots of fun in the Mediterranean that day. It was great. The water was wonderful, and of course it's a beautiful color blue. We played on the beach. And we also stopped and had, and this is, Matt really wanted us to experience this. This is a traditional paella, which our waiter he was lots of fun, and he presented it well. I don't know how everybody liked the little eyeballs on the shrimp, but it was great. It was just a wonderful experience. You don't have to eat the eyeballs. Yeah. We also had great food in Barcelona. It was just fabulous. This one picture up on the left here is in there because we were eating dinner here. Our reservations were for 9. We were late. We were eating dinner here about 10 o'clock at night. And that's when they eat, 9, 10 o'clock at night in Spain. We had to redo our internal clocks because they ate late. This was an afternoon lunch. That was an afternoon lunch, but most of the time our evening meals were very, very, very late in the evening. Is this yours, Marie?
Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, so we have lots of friendships that so we had a flat that Matt arranged through a friend of his who has this parent that owns this really nice flat. And in Spain, all the living quarters are quite small. Matt's little house that he owns is really a flat at 750 square feet. So this was like double that, and they all said, oh, this is a great place. And we rented it because we had 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and it was really great. There was a rooftop patio, but there came a little glitch for that. We had to have a party for all of his friends because they wanted to make use of this bigger apartment while we're there. So we threw this party, and the ladies and I, we all cooked, and they were all from different parts of the world. All of his friends are from all over because Barcelona is very much a place for a lot of young professionals. And so it was interesting to talk to all of them from several countries. That's yours, Sophie.
Oh, this is mine? Okay. Gaudi is a very famous architect and artist. His home is in, I believe, was in Barcelona. And as you go through the city, there are several locations that feature his architecture. This is one example of it. I think this was from Park 12, which is a huge park up on the hill that overlooks the city.
No, this is Casa Batlló.
Oh, Casa Batlló?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that his house?
It was a house that he built for someone.
Yes,
Okay.
it's near the park.
I think it's near Parkwell, but it's an example of his type of architecture. He tries to incorporate nature in the things he does. The next is probably his most famous work, which is still an ongoing thing. It's Sagrada Familia. It's a cathedral that's been in progress of being built for 95 years. And you can see all the towers. There is yet to be another central tower that's going to be about 50% taller than the rest of them. So it's just an amazing structure. All of the graphics on the outside are carved into stone, and they depict different biblical stories. And it's just an amazing structure. Still in progress, but they give tours of it.
It's the number one tour in the.
In Spain? In
Spain.
Okay, this is just some examples of the carvings that are on the outside of the cathedral. On the inside, Gaudi, contrary to normally they're kind of dark with stained glass windows, he wanted to emphasize light, so he's got a tremendous amount of colored glass that makes up the inside of the cathedral. And the pillars are actually designed to appear like trees holding the roof up. As they get to the top, they branch out, and really a very cool place to visit. The east side of the cathedral has blue and greenish colored lights. As the sun sets to the west, it goes to orange and yellows.
So here's that apartment that we rented from Matt's friend, and so you can kind of see the difference of much more spacious than a lot of the places that most people can afford. Stainless steel kitchen. The C, you tell me guys, it means yes.
Yes.
And if,
If without the
I
asterisk.
think with, I don't know.
Anyway, one way or the other, it has an asterisk, it's if, and otherwise it's yes. So that was fun to be in.
So after Barcelona is where we split up, and then Steve and I met. We have a nephew, Kevin Harris, who teaches physics over in Maidenhead, England, not far from London. So he went through Prescott High School and got his physics degree, and that's what he ended up doing. And he happened to have a break. Their vacations or their school breaks are way different than ours. So he happened to have a break the same week we were going to Rome. And he hadn't been to Rome yet. So he met us in Rome, and we all kind of stayed together, cozied up together. Lots of outdoor little, just really small restaurants with outdoor tables. So this is a typical pizza that we had in Italy.
Okay, then this part here, that would be the Vatican Museum that we're walking through over on the left. On the right, on the top is a Colosseum. We spent quite a bit of time. We took a tour in the Colosseum. It's beautiful. And down below is the Forum, which is right for those of you that haven't been there. The Forum is the famous one where you see in all the Roman movies and stuff where all the chariots went up and all the kings or whatever, the emperors of Rome, all there. That was really fascinating. We went to a few shows at the Forum.
We saw Spanish Steps. There was so much to see in Rome, but this was the biggest surprise, because when we decided to go to Rome, it wasn't necessarily to see the Pope, but we thought we're going to go to the Vatican. So we chose a day that worked for us, but we thought there's no way we're going to see, the popes. But we went on in a really early morning tour, and our tour guide said about halfway through, hey, the Pope might show up later. So she finished the tour, which was amazing. The pictures don't do that justice either, which was amazing. And then we just kind of started walking around, because once you go outside to St. Peter's, you can't come back in. So we thought we'll just kind of walk around. Well, lo and behold, all of a sudden we saw TV cameras and more people. So we stuck around, and I kind of wormed my way up to the front of this. I don't know how many thousands of people were there. I felt like a sardine. But I got really close, so I took a picture of the Pope, and there he was, like right in front of me. So it was a really amazing for me personally, but it was just a really amazing, place to be at that time, I think.
Father George Ches put this in the bulletin. He said, even sinners prosper.
This is you, Steve.
Trevi Fountain. For those of you, and obviously we have some young people here, if you've never seen the movie Three Coins in a Fountain, that's what really made the Trevi Fountain a big deal. And so it's not very far from all the main parts of things that we wanted to go see. So we did toss some coins in, and we'll see if any of it comes up and works in our favor.
Well, this is like what did Rome do what the Romans do? So I don't know. We got caught up in a little thing on the hillside one day and snapped some pictures, and so yeah, we.
Well, they wanted money. That was their whole reason. They wanted money. That was it.
All I would do was toast. So we had some fun there.
Oh, that's great. While they were in Rome, Tom and Marie and Rick and I, we all went. We headed down to Granada, and this is our hotel. It's really unique.
Yeah,
This
can I-
is the,
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
It's 1 o'clock. Those of you that have to leave, we're gonna continue to the end. Just wanted to throw that out in case you're
We're
losing
almost
track of
there.
time. Sorry, Val.
That's all right. This is the actual door, the glass part, but this is a palace that was converted to a hotel. It's a 16th century palace. This picture on the right is a picture of very common streets that you will find in Granada. And they're just phenomenally beautiful. And the cars drive on these, and I don't know how old they are, but it was amazing. This is just another common intersection, a street. You'll see people that like to sit on the side and have some coffee or something. One of the tours that we went to in Granada, and one of the main purposes was we went to the Alhambra. The Alhambra in Granada is like a gathering of splendid palaces and landscaped gardens. Originally, it was built in 889 AD, and it was finally completed it was built as a fortress, and then it was finally completed as a palace in the 1300s. Today, it's the last remaining Moorish stronghold in Europe, and as well is the oldest Muslim palace in the world. It's incredibly beautiful. It's a World Heritage Site, and it's been described as a pearl set in emeralds. And that is an accurate description. Just gorgeous, gorgeous carvings everywhere. Gardens were included in it. And this doesn't do it justice, and it was incredible.
So this is the same day we went and had lunch up on top of the hillside to overlook Granada. And the interesting thing is we met this couple that are over there. They're from India, and they were on their honeymoon. And so that's a fun part of traveling for you young guys that are looking for traveling. They talked to us about their wedding, and he's an IT specialist and she's a teacher, and we ended up connecting and learning from them.
This is yours?
This is mine. Okay, that's a Plaza de España. This is built in 1928 from Ibero-American Exposition from the World's Fair it was. And they've had things like the Lawrence of Arabia and Star Wars movie has been filmed in this place. So we saw some flamingo dancers when we were there, and then got to hear and see them. This is a bridge on the same property that is over the water that they have, and there was people canoeing underneath. So now we're in, are we still?
Well, now we're walking along the river.
Okay, so this is Sevilla. We're walking along the river. We had taken a taxi to try to reach across the other side of the river, and the taxi driver said, you don't want to go over there. And so he said, you might as well get out here and walk. So we walked, and it was a lot longer than we thought, but what a beautiful night. And so that was kind of a highlight. Gorgeous sky, and we did connect on the other side.
This is Sevilla still?
This is still Sevilla, and this is the Royal can you say that? Alcazar, and that is another place very similar to the Alhambra, and beautiful, a lot of history.
This was a site where Isabel and Ferdinand, this was their throne in this city.
Christopher Columbus,
Yep.
Isabel. There.
And it was it was a Muslim fortress in 913, and then they revamped it as they conquered that part of Spain.
And this is
Games of Thrones.
Yeah, the Game of Thrones
was filmed there.
This was it is an active palace. The royal family still comes and stays here.
And that's some of the interior of the beautiful place. This is the Hall of Virgins, and so Matt wanted us to see this. Actually, at the very end, that gray area is where the king or the royalty was, the king or the prince or whoever, and then the hall has a pathway on either side of the water, and then the virgins would go down there and visit, and then leave, and that's all I'm saying about that. But it really was, that's what they call it, the Hall of Virgins. And then we had a really rainy day that day, and so I had an umbrella, but everybody else didn't have one, so we found these vendors that sold these really cheap, and Tom didn't want me to button it up, but I didn't button it up. These are the tapas that, over the last few years, Matt's really found some really great restaurants that have tapas, and they're small meal plates, as you probably know what tapas are. And when you get together as a group to share a meal, you have all these variety, and you pass them around, and it creates a lot of conversation, and it's really a great way to eat.
After Spain, we flew up to Paris and then drove directly to Normandy. It was a site that I think surprised all of us because, we've heard a lot about the Normandy invasion because this is the site of it, of the Normandy invasion. Even though the whole day was spent looking at the sea, which is amazing, and sand and the hills, nothing outstanding, but you just had a sense of awe when you recognized the fact that that was the site where the soldiers came ashore and all the great sacrifice that occurred on their part. Throughout the whole area, there's a variety of different museums and stuff. You could spend a week there easily to visit them all. We only had a day, unfortunately, but the pictures we have here give you a sense of what they had to face when they landed. The seas are very, very troublesome there. It wasn't quite as bad as what we saw here on that day, where I don't think they'd have made it. But it still gave you a sense of the danger associated with the landing itself.
These are the cliffs that they had to
Yeah, that's
scale.
Point du Hoc is what that structure there, that hill there is. The Marines had, I guess they were not Marines, they were the Rangers had to climb that in the face of guys shooting down at them. Just an amazing courage and valor that was displayed there.
Look at those flags, how windy was it?
We had a really windy.
Seriously, it was almost blew you right away.
Whoops.
The water looks pretty.
And this is on the top of Point du Hoc. These are shell holes.
After 75 years.
After 75 years, they still look like that. And you could walk right out to the point there and see where the Germans were waiting for the Allied. Steve was always the suspect, so they had to frisk him just about everywhere we went. But he passed muster every time. This is another museum. This is in St. Marie Église. If you ever saw the movie,
The longest day.
The Longest Day, it depicts this scene. One of the soldiers that parachuted in actually got hooked up on the top of the church, and he stayed there thinking he was dead while a battle took place on the ground below him. And he did survive, but they have a dummy up there to depict that event still now. And we ended up at the cemetery just above Utah Beach, and it's really just an awesome place. It puts you in awe.
You see a lot of the Wisconsin and
Yeah, a lot of local soldiers.
So now we're in Paris, and this explains itself. We are having our picture taken.
The gang.
Yeah, okay,
And it was windy and cold there too, so it was a little hike from our hotel
October.
to get there. And ironically, when we walked to the Eiffel Tower, I believe it was Val, or was it Rick, that you saw the yellow jackets and the orange coats down by the river.
That was the beginning of their.
The beginning of the protests?
There that you heard about.
We got out of there just before France and Paris had their Paris attacks.
That's you, Steve.
This is me?
Yeah. Just House of Parliament, it speaks for itself.
I don't remember this. Was I okay then? But anyway, no. There's the Bridge of London, the Tower Bridge over the River Thames. And when we first flew into London, we did take a bus. What do we call those buses? Hop on, hop off. So we had a little bit of a clue what we wanted to do when we were coming back at the end, and they still have telephone booths.
Those are actually telephone booths, and there are telephones in there. And then we went to the changing of the guard, and there's literally thousands of people there. While everyone was backed up against the fence, Steve and I had the perfect spot right in front of the gate. We made friends with the Bobby, ushering folks through the gate, and the Bobby on horseback. She gave us sugar-free lifesavers to feed the horse. And when the event was finished, we shook hands with the Bobby, and he wished us a good day. So we had a great time there.
Tom doesn't go back to that one, at least, no. So Tom doesn't look very happy there. We made him stand with the ladies.
We were one of the ones smashed up against the fence.
And he's like, I don't know what we're here for, because there was just people coming in and out. But then when they finally came, it was really wonderful.
They had a parade, it was beautiful. They really did it up right for the changing of the guards.
There was thousands of people there because it was holiday in Germany, and in different parts of Europe at that time, so
They
it
brought
was
the
an
kids.
influx of people.
Westminster Abbey. This is a favorite spot.
One of my favorite spots.
Stephen Hawking's was actually even buried there.
Back to it all.
Lots of people, yeah.
We're kind of hurrying here, so.
Yeah, British Museum.
Went to the British Museum, it was a free museum. It was a massive, I mean, you could spend weeks in there, but it was amazing.
The first thing you see when you come in is the real Rosetta Stone. So that was pretty cool. Again, because it was holiday, there were thousands of people there, but there was like 4 floors, and it was an incredible museum. And we didn't have a ton of time to go through it, but it would be well worth the time. And it was one of the few free things.
I don't know what the Rosetta Stone
we
is,
went
just
to.
in case they don't know.
I'm sorry?
What the Rosetta Stone is.
Yeah.
What-
Oh, that's the stone from Egypt that really allowed us to understand what the hieroglyphics were, so we could understand history. And so I'm sure you've heard it either in music or something. They say the Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is what really gave us that clue to be able to decipher the languages and some of the history.
You can see that it's inscribed, it's carved all over
carved
the
in
surface.
stone.
This is just a piece of it,
Yeah.
but this is what we
They had
have.
so many artifacts that were really old.
We were at the Tower of London, which was also a really neat place. Crown jewels were there and lots of artifacts. And this guy was letting us know that we were overstaying our.
They were
Get out of my house, he's saying, you know.
So this is our last night in downtown London proper, and Kevin joined us for our last evening, and we just really had fun, just eating and enjoying our stories.
Well, look at this.
The girls went shopping one of the last evenings, and the guys were saying, Rick kept saying something about they have a scarf, so we bought them scarves. They really much scarves. So we began our journey as friends on a long-awaited trip, and we ended our journey as even better friends. And us girls were fooling around, and I came up with different ideas. Tom is the Buckingham Palace guard in charge of fences and carriages. Rick is the salad king because he kept wanting salad. Steve is the Google Knight leading the way 2 times around with his Google Maps. Marie is the princess in charge of social affairs, infirmary, and drugs. Was the queen of clinics and toilet paper, and I was the queen mother in charge of maps and navigation. And
Well, Queen Elizabeth waved us goodbye to the guys, especially Tom, who didn't really want to be there. Staying at that fence for 2.5 hours, but it was a great time.
Oh, sweet.